Hey family, welcome to How Love Works, where we talk about the principles for lasting love. Well family, I think that this is a good time for us to talk about some male issues today. I want to share with you, I think one of the most perplexing issues that women have when it comes to men and relationships. And I think that it's a very difficult one for women to try to wrap their minds around most of the time. I think it's primarily due to the fact that it's so common. So I think what women have done is that they've rationalized the point and said, well, this is just male behavior. This is what being a man is all about. When you experience this behavior with a man, this is something to be expected. And so what I want to talk to you about today is why men won't commit. Why is it that men won't or don't commit? I guess that's a matter of opinion. I will say this though before we get started. I'm only going to be dealing with four major areas. There are a number of reasons why men don't commit, obviously. So I'm sure I'm not going to touch on every area that there are concerning this issue. But what I am going to do is just talk about the four areas that I see most consistently in relationships. And I think that if you can wrap your head around that, I think it'll make it easier for you to be able to deal with some of the issues that you might have experienced in the past. And so if you need to release some of the experiences that you've had in the past so you can be set up for a much better relationship in the future, these four areas will be the topics that you can use to kind of compare. Fair enough? All right. First of all, let me tell you that there are some myths concerning men and this issue of commitment. One thing you need to understand, ladies, that men really don't have a problem committing. Men commit to many things in their lives, many areas of their lives. Men are always committing. Committing or commission or commitment is not an issue for men. I recognize that many of you have had some severe problems with men in your lives that have not stood the test of time. They have not stood up to my statement. I realize that, and I will say that I'm sorry that you've had to experience those issues in your past. But the reality is that men do not have an issue with commitment. Otherwise, you would not have men in committed relationships with other men for decades. You would not have men marrying at all. You would not have men involved in occupations where they have been committed to these occupations for millennia. You know what I mean by millennia. They've been involved in these fields of endeavor for years. And so commitment is not an issue for men. But here are some of the problems that men will not commit to. This is just for your information purposes only. So what I want you to do, ladies, as you listen to me, I don't want you to do what most women do when they listen to a man give information about other men. First of all, I'm not providing this information and blaming you. I don't know you. I don't know your situation. So I'm not blaming you. All I'm doing is giving you information that you can use for your consideration for future endeavors and relationships with men. That's all I'm doing. If you choose not to use the information, that's your business, and that's okay. That's fine. But like I always say, you're talking to a man that's in a committed relationship and have been in a committed relationship for a number of years. I intend to remain in this committed relationship until they put me in the box and throw me in the ground. Okay? So, here we go. The four areas that men will not commit to. So if you are doing any of these four things, whether you know it or not, you know now why your man pulled back You know now why your man is being apprehensive in the relationship. Okay? Number one, men will not submit to female-led relationships. Let that one soak a while. Men will not submit to female-led relationships. I'm talking about men like me. I'm talking about men who want to commit, who understand the true value of commitment, who love to commit, but we will not commit to a female-led relationship. Why? Because female-led relationships don't feel good. Because female-led relationships to a man emasculates a man. It steals from a man. It takes away his strength. It makes a man feel less than a man because he can't see any reason, any meaning for the relationship, because everything in the relationship is about feelings. And feelings are constantly the theater in which the relationship is staged. And a man cannot live perpetually in a subjective, feeling-based relationship. He can't do it because he recognizes the one impeccable issue. And that issue is no satisfaction can ever come from it for the man or the woman. Therefore, a man is repelled by a female-led relationship because he knows he cannot do the very main thing all men are wired to do when they're in relationships with women that they love. We are wired to try to do all we can within our power to try to help to make our wives happy, comfortable, content, satisfied. That's what we're wired to do. But in a female-led relationship, that is a feelings-directed and subjected relationship, he can't do it. He knows he can't do it because there's no objective truth. There's no standards. And men require standards because standards provide a foundation and structure. Men require structure. A female-led relationship a man cannot live with. Not because women are inferior. That's what the feminist model would have you believe. It's because of what I said. And I hope I was clear. I didn't mince words. I spoke plain English. It's because a female-led relationship is a feeling and very subjective relationship. Truth doesn't really resonate well in a female-led relationship. Feelings are here. Truth down here. Truth don't feel good. Feelings do, but feelings don't last. They're fickle. That's why men don't like them and they will not commit. That's number one. Number two, there's no emotional connection. There's a lack of it. A man cannot commit when there is no emotional connection. What do I mean? Every man that a woman encounters and has a relationship with, every man, just like every woman, all of us come to a relationship with baggage, and we come to a relationship with a price tag. With that being said, that means we have fears, and with those fears, we have other areas of our lives that we want to enhance. But when you get into a relationship with a woman who is not aware of the fact that emotional connection is primary for a man in order to commit, you have to deal with that area. A man will only connect to what feels good to him. Let that one marinate. What feels good to him in his masculine mind, in his masculine heart. He is only going to commit to that. And I kind of alluded to it earlier with my first area of discussion when I talked about female-led relationships. He will only relate to that which he knows he can bring some sense of satisfaction to. That gives a man a lot of fulfillment. But guess what? If there is no emotional connection in the area of all the multiplicity of fears that men bring to relationships, men have a number of fears that women have no earthly idea that men carry around with them when it comes to relationships. Now, some of them men, some of the relationships or some of the fears, that men have, women are aware of because they hear about it in the media and they read about it in magazines. But by and large, there are a number of fears that men have. And in order for a woman to solicit a commitment from a man, she has to find a way to alleviate these fears. Now, she can do that by her influence because women have a tremendous power for influence, but they don't know how to use it. They have no clue. Only because women typically, they covet power they already have, but the power that they covet is a power or the masculine approach to power. There's a feminine approach to power which has to do with influence. And they don't know how to wield that power because they think of themselves in the context of the masculine. So that's number one. They have to, in order to get that emotional connection that a man needs in order to commit, she has to help alleviate those fears. Okay? Sex won't do that. Sex won't do that, ladies. Just so you know. Okay, number one. And number two, you have to enhance his concept of what the future might be with you. You have to enhance of what the future might be with you. Now, when you can alleviate some of these fears and you can enhance the future of what it might be with you, there will be an emotional connection. See? But many times that never even comes to the surface in a relationship. You never even think on those levels because that's a mature way of thinking. That's a higher level of thinking. Most men and women rarely go that far in their relationships. That's number two. Emotional connection. It's a lack. That's why men will not commit. Number three, there's no added value. None. No added value at all. Why? Because women are not providing positive influence in the relationship because that's her domain. That's her jurisdiction. That's her area of authority. Influence. No one has more influence on my life than my wife. My mother, my best friend, my children, my pastor. No one has more influence on my life and my decision making than my wife. So guess what? That says she adds a lot of value. Because I'm going to tell you why her influence has so much credibility with me. One of the reasons that men won't commit because of not this lack of added value is because a lot of times women have unrealistic expectations. They bring unrealistic expectations. Now they're born out of the tragedy of the relationships they've had in the past. And they've not taken the lessons that they should have developed and learned through those tragedies and grown from those tragedies. But many times, men as well as women, they never do because they blame the other individual. So their expectations are not realistic. And see, what you need to understand about expectations is all expectations are invalid in any relationship unless they have been disclosed and discussed by both the parties. Okay? For the purpose of the well-being of that relationship. Remember, all expectations, whether it be from the male side of the equation or the female side of the equation, all expectations are invalid unless they have been fully disclosed and been discussed and been agreed upon by both parties for the enhancement and the benefit of that relationship. If that hasn't happened, guess what? Boom. You need to forget it. All right? Now, last but not least, I guess you figured I'd go there, right? Women will not submit. Men know this. Women will not submit. Now, just from a biblical perspective, the Bible says a married woman is expected to submit to her own husband, not just women in general submitting to men in general. That's not what the Bible is implying. But in regards to this particular issue of commitment, men will not commit to a woman who will not submit. Now, one of the reasons women won't submit, there are a number of reasons. There are a lot of fears that go into that, and I can go into that, but I'm going to talk about this issue about why women won't submit in my next video. I want to talk about that in a little bit more detail. But just suffice it to say, one of the reasons men will not commit to women is because they will not submit. And so I'm going to wrap it up with these 4 areas for you to think about. The reason why your relationships have not turned into the commitments that you would love to have is because A, men will not commit to female-led relationships. They will not commit to a lack of emotional connection. They will not commit when there is no value added to that relationship. And they will not commit when a woman that they believe will be their life partner for their life will not submit to their loving relationship. It just won't happen. I'm sorry, ladies, if you think that a lot of the things I've said are sexist. I don't mean to offend, but that's just the reality. Men will not commit if any of those 4 issues are present in your personal relationship. It doesn't matter how much sex you're giving this man. Doesn't matter how much money you're giving this man. Doesn't matter how much access to life, time you're giving this man. Doesn't matter. If those 4 areas are in your relationship, he will not commit to you. You might want to reevaluate your relationship. That's my time. I thank you for yours. See you on the other side. God bless you.